4, which together is 36. The interesting thing about it is that the material world is divided into 4 components. We know that there is solid and liquid, gas, and plasma. These are 4 different stages of material, and they correspond to the 4 letters of God's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei. And they've postulated that there exists 4 different forces in creation. There's called the strong force that holds everything together, the weak force that allows for there to be separation and structure. The third is the electromagnetic force, and the fourth they say is the power of gravity. The amazing thing about it is that if you think about the essence of these 4 forces, then they correspond to the Kabbalistic definition of the name of God, the Tetragrammaton Yud Kei Vav Kei, down to a T. The Kabbalists have brought it down to a point where you can actually see the relationship between Kabbalah and science. And this actually corresponds. What I'm saying to you is really a lecture given by a great scientist. His name was Dr. Naftali Berg. Naftali Berg was one of the first scientists who created all different kinds of weaponry in the 70s and the 80s for the Defense Department. He died in the 90s. He died at a very, very young age. And this was a lecture that he gave, I believe, in 1995, where he described the essence of the world. That he said as follows: science has gone through 3 shlavim, 3 stages. The first element of science has been to show certain concepts in Torah, how they're possible. Because people couldn't understand how God could hear everything, how God could see everything. After all, where is God? We don't. And now that we have telephones and telegraphs and telescopes
and wireless,
you can see things in the distance, you can hear the distance, communicate in distances. And so that allowed us to understand how these things can work. Then there's another shlav, another level, where science is utilized to transmit Torah. For example, you can use satellite communication or the computer to instantaneously transmit the words of the Torah all over the world. But then there's a third shlav, a third level, that at its core, science is Torah. People think science is different from Torah. That's not true. At the core, science is Torah. What does he mean by that? You see this with the 36, but there's an even more profound concept here. One of the most elusive concepts yet, one of the greatest searches that still is going on among scientists is the universal field theory. That is that there is a single theory that will explain all the various components of existence. That was something that Einstein tried, but he couldn't reach. He was able to unite matter and energy, but he could not explain the relationship between electricity and gravity, magnetism and gravity. And so he had this elusive. He tried to create this universal field theory, which would explain that everything at its core is one. But when the Jewish person says Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, Echad does not mean singularity at one point. It means that everything is unified. Everything is in unison and functions together. And so the Jew, when he says his expression of his faith in God, is saying that although there are 4 compartments to his tefillin, there are 4 letters to God's name, these really at their core are really one.